actually thought it was.
Oh, pardon me, Moore. I didn't know you were still talking. I just turned it
No,
right
all is
on.
good. All is good. Go ahead, Mo. Let's demonstrate.
All right. First off, Islam. Islam to all the Moors out there. We're going over the Quran questions for Moorish Americans. We're gonna this is a series we're doing. I like to keep the teachings as pure as I can keep them on this platform. So Cosmo L, we have him in the building this evening. How you doing, Cosmo L?
Islam, all is truly well, my brother. How are you, Moore?
Life is good. Life is good. I'm so focused. I had to delete my social media.
All right, all right.
I got a
Nothing
lot of
wrong with fasting.
I got a lot of studying to do. A lot of studying to do right now. So let's go into it. Before we go into it, we got to play the commercial. Hold on one second. I don't know. Okay, we got to play the commercial. We got to do this commercial now, guys. Hold on.
Peace family. Welcome to NYP Talk Show. This is more than a podcast. It's a conscious platform rooted in truth and culture. From the 5% Nation, Nation of Islam, Moorish movement, and Masonry. Our mission is to reclaim our narrative and uplift the African diaspora with real stories and real conversations. Support us through super chats during live shows, donations on Cash App, GoFundMe, Patreon, or Buzzsprout, and by repping our official merch, available on our website and right here on YouTube's merch shelf. Every dollar, every super chat, every hoodie builds the movement. This is NYP Talk Show.
All right, all right. So more, we're gonna go into the Quran questions for Moorish children, and I think we left off Newark, New Jersey. I think that's where we left off, if I'm not mistaken. And if we didn't, we could just start from there, if you don't mind.
Islam, I think we started off with I think we left off with Moorish American, and we were explaining consanguinity and jus soli, but we can definitely if you want to pick it up from
Oh no, let's pick it up. Let's pick it up for where we left off. So what is his nationality? Moorish American. What is your nationality? Moorish American. I want to talk about this. Moorish American, right? Because Moorish American, that term, right, if you, for lack of a better term, would be it's controversial, right? Because we came in so many names in the past. We came in the name of Negro, Black, colored, African American, Islam. You there, Mo? Oh, he went out. Yeah, so I wanted to discuss this. He'll come back in. I wanted to discuss this, this term Moorish American, because I think it's a controversial term that we need to really unpack for people to have an understanding of what this really is, right? There's a lot of misconceptions, and so I want to clear up the misconceptions about being a Moorish American. Oh, he's back. All right, hold on 1 second.
Somebody called and it just, when I tried to go back to video, it wouldn't go back to video. But you were saying, my brother?
So I was saying that the term Moorish American has a lot of controversy behind it, right? Because we came in so many names, right? Negro, Black, colored, and now more recent, since the 80s, I believe. I think what's his name, Reverend Jesse Jackson, made African American, or coined the phrase, and made it what it is, to this day. So there's so much an issue surrounding our, hold on, peace, brother. Appreciate what you're doing for the people. Peace be unto you. Peace, brother. Peace to you, brother. Let me just put that up there. Just make sure you recognize, brother. Peace to you. Thank you, brother. So now Moorish American. Why Moorish American? Because we are the descendants of Moroccans born in America. Now that's controversial within itself as well. So if you could kind of explain what is his nationality, which is Noble Ali, Moorish American, we can go over that question and answer. That'll be peace.
Islam. So, well, first, what we have to understand is that terms like Negro, Black, Colored, Ethiopian, and in modern times, African American, these are all social constructs. These, with the exception of African American, which is more of a modern social construct, these other ones were chattel terms, meaning they all delude to slavery, meaning we didn't come over here black. Black is, you have to realize the Spanish were the first to begin the caste system and the slave system with the Spanish La Castas. And in that particular system, the lowest on the totem pole in that society was Negro. So when the English came, they adopted that same caste structure and they just used the English word for Negro, which is black. However, this was not our national name prior to the advent of slavery, nor was colored. And when we get into it, it says colored, anything painted, stained, varnished, or dyed. Negro was a river in West Africa named by the Moors because it contained black water, and black, according to science, means death. So these were not genuine terms for our people. Now, because people didn't adopt the Moorish American, which was brought by Noble Drew Ali, you had Jesse Jackson later on coining the phrase African American, at least trying to connect us with the continent, but not realizing that there are many nations in Africa. So it's still not a nationality. Noble Drew Ali says we're descendants of Africa, but that doesn't cover nationality. That covers descendant nature. But the nationality aspect of it is, well, what particular nation did we come from? What was our national name before any of these other terms? Africa's a continent. And so when we go back and we realize that who were the first people to step and start beginning colonizing Africa? Where did he get Moorish American from? Where did it come from? So we have to look at the first people to be enslaved come by way of the Spanish, right? And who did the Spanish enslave first? Moors. 1491, the fall of Granada. The Moors who could not ransom themselves and get back to West Africa in Morocco, Algeria, Mauritania, all of these areas over there, they were the first to be enslaved by Spain. Pardon me. So the first slaves to be exported to the Americas were indeed Moors. Well, where did these Moors come from? We know that General Tariq, who the Rock of Gibraltar is named after, was a Moroccan. We know that the Moors who came, who led the charge to invade Spain, came from Morocco. So it's really not a hard thing to realize. When you look at where you say, well, slaves came from all over Africa. Well, let's analyze that. We know that West Africa, which was encompassed, Morocco was a lot bigger than it is right now. When we say Morocco, people think the modern day state of Morocco, which got its independence in 1956. And that is not what we're referring to. We're referring to ancient Morocco all the way up until 711, when General Tariq went into Spain. The Moors conquered Spain and ruled Spain for 700 years, and it became the light of the world. But when we look at the west coast of Africa in general, at one point in time, it was known as the Gold Coast. Well, why was it known as the Gold Coast? Because the commodity coming from that coast was gold. At another time, it was known as the Ivory Coast. Why? Because the commodity coming from that coast at that time was ivory. Another time, it was known as what? the slave coast, because the commodity of that time were slaves. So there was nobody that came and brought and reconnected us, not just with our continent, but with our actual nation. And so this is where Moor comes from. I also like to point out that when you read Stolen Legacy, George G.M. James, he lets you know that the Moors were the inheritors of the ancient Egyptian mystery system. After the Egyptian mysteries were closed, the ancient adepts fled into Northwest Africa. They fled into, namely Mauritania, which was part of Morocco back then. And they went into Asia and went into parts of Arabia. And he says that the Moors carried the splendor of African culture with grandeur into Morocco. So after Egypt fell in the 600s, 100 years later, in 711, the Moors rose with the knowledge of the ancient world and became the light of the world again for 700 to 800 years. But they make you think the fall of Egypt was way back in some ancient times, and you hear Egypt and then you don't hear anything else but slavery after that. So what he did was tap into this piece of history. He tapped into something that connected us with the land, a flag, and a culture, and was genuinely had historical ties and evidence. Black doesn't tie us to a land, a flag, or a culture, no historical evidence. Negro doesn't, unless you're talking about slavery and the Spanish La Costas and the English caste system. Nor does African American. It's way too new. It comes from Jesse Jackson, so it can't be genuine, you know. So no other terms that were brought return to us our identity that can be traced back through history. When you look up Moor, you're going to find yourself. And so I'll just stop there. That's Moor. But Moorish American comes because, and I'm not saying all Moors come from slavery. I'm just giving a historical standpoint that most of our people can relate to, because their narrative is that we come from Africa, we come from slaves, so on and so forth. American is obvious. We're descendants of Moroccans, ancient Moroccans, which I just explained, and born in America. And in the earlier broadcast, I spoke on two key concepts when it comes to nationality and citizenship: jus sanguinis, or consanguinity, which is the bloodline, and then also jus sali, which is the connection to the soil. So within that term, Moorish, you're dealing with the consanguinity, the bloodline, the jus sali, and then you're dealing with birthrights of being born on the soil of America.
Okay. Now, what would you say to people who say, you know, the European gave us the name Moor?
Well, I would say they need to read my book, Mur to Moor, Kemet Until Now. Because in the book, Mur to Moor, I trace the etymology, phonology, morphology, and phonology of the English word Moor. Now, no doubt, English word Moor is an English word, but we're speaking English. So it wouldn't make sense for the prophet to come with an Arabic word or a Swahili word or any other word. We're speaking English. Our people didn't know that. English is the word for our people, Moor. But when you trace that word Moor back in the day, you had those from the black, so-called black scholars who said, well, Moor comes from Rome, right? Because when you just go to a dictionary, which is updated and revised and written over and over and over, that's what you're going to see. But that's in modern times. If you go a little bit further, you're going to see that the word Moor comes from the Greek and under the word Mar. And in essence, the Romans got it from the Greeks. The Romans got everything from the Greeks. They got their culture from the Greeks. But where did Greek get their culture? Where did the Greek get their knowledge? From ancient Egypt.
Right.
So they've already, it made it easy for me, because when you study the etymology, they already did the etymology of the word Moor back to Greek. But what they tell you is Moor is cognate to black. Cognate does not mean that it means black. It means it's related to the word. But then, and you can go to Etymology Online Dictionary for simple reference, it tells you that this meaning only comes in late Greek. Well, what was the early Greek definition of it? It was related to love, which is where the Latin amor comes from. And when we go into Kemet, we see this word myrrh. And this word myrrh, that means love. It's where the Greek got it from. There's also another word, myrrh, that means custodian and ruler and governor. And it aligns with what Brother George G. M. James said. Now you say, well, that's myrrh. How is that related to Moor? Because when you're dealing with the etymology and the ancient language, you remove the vowels because the vowels change. That's why the ancient mar in Greek, M-A-U-R, is M-O-O-R today. But what stays constant are the consonants. So when you look at the word myrrh, within the word myrrh, M-R, and then, you have variations of that all throughout Egypt. Myrrh, Mar, Moor, they all go back to the M and the R. Pardon me, there's a plane coming. So now you could say, well, you might say, well, yes, the phonics line up, but that's just the sound. How does that relate? And this is a mistake that our people made throughout the conscious community, just aligning the phonics, and because the phonology lines up, just running with it like, oh, this must mean this. So that's why I did the semantics, the morphology, and the etymology of it, and it lines up on all points. The definition of myrrh is the same as mar, which is the same as Moor in English. The phonology is the same of myrrh, mar, and Moor, absent the vowels. The morphology is the same because you can trace it from the ancient Egyptian or ancient Kemetic up through the Indo-European language, all the way into the Latin and all the way into the modern English. Right. So for anyone interested in that, which I know it sounds a little bit complex as I speak it, but it's very simply put in the book with charts and various proofs. Myrrh to Moor, Kemet until now. And one interesting note about this book, when I first came out with my first book, Moor is what they didn't teach you in Black history class. The Amin-Ra squad, I don't know if you remember the Amin-Ra squad, back then, they tried to attack my book. They put my book on there and they started talking about it. And they were like, oh yeah, and Moor is Roman and goes back to the Romans. So I was going to do a video, but I said, you know what? I'm going to write a book and end all of this. And when I wrote that book, Murder Moor, Kemet until now, and I put that on the market, you rarely hear anybody from any of those circles now saying that Moor is Roman and Moor is Greek, because they know now. And anybody that does say it is either got a hold of some old information or they haven't read my book. So that's what I would say. It goes in more detail. Murder Moor, Kemet until now. You can find it at Amazon and it'll break it all down for you.
That's peace. Now, American, the hyphenated part, and then American. So what is the hyphen? Why a hyphen in between American? Just like how we have to have our names, like, like Cozmo -L.
Islam was basic grammar. Hyphen joins two words. All right. If you were to do it without the hyphen, it can still have the same meaning, but it can have another meaning, because when you have a word in front of another word, it denotes possession. So you'd be saying Moorish of the American. The of is missing, but it's understood in language. So it's just simple grammar, hyphenating, joining two words, two concepts, so that to bring about a meaning, and to separate it so that one can understand we're dealing with two concepts in one word or phrase. We're dealing with the jus sanguis and the jus sali. It has two different aspects. But if you think about it, it's very simple. You know, you have Irish American, Mexican Americans, Chinese Americans. Is to let people know what type of American, because American is anybody who's born on the soil, has birthrights to the soil. So that Moorish, that Irish, that English, that Mexican, whatever it is, lets you know what that bloodline is. And everybody has that except the Black American. They've been blacked out. Nobody respects that term that has a nationality because it does not trace to a bloodline. You might say it can be related in the as we talked on your other show in regards to the black carbon atom, and as the brother explained, it has a deeper meaning. We're only dealing with nationality and bloodline.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. So now, to go into nationality, what is a nationality? So what is the purpose of a nationality? I mean, does it really have any impact in our lives and in society,
Having a nationality itself?
or not?
Well, without going into anything too deep, because I want the people to be able to understand this. Nationality is a right. Are people always talking about rights? So if it's a right, why wouldn't we want it? Why would we think, oh, it doesn't matter or not? It's a right. Number one, it's a human right in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 15. Number two, it's an indigenous right in the DRIP, the Declaration of Rights of Indigenous People. I think it's either 5 or 6. So if this international body and other nations feel the need to enumerate this right in their international and political documents, it must be pretty important. And it's a right that we're supposed to have. Also, your nationality determines your political status in any given country. Prophet Noble Jew Ali said they place respect and they replace honor on names, national names and names. So when you don't, nobody likes a bastard. You know, when you're a bastard, you're undesirable. When you don't know who you are and who your mother and father is, even the children at school gonna tease you. He don't know who his daddy is. He don't know. You got to know who your mama is, unless you adopt it, because it's daddy's maybe, mama's baby, daddy's maybe. You know, you coming out of mama. But when you don't know your bloodline, it's something that is abhorred in society. And this is part of the reason why so-called Black people are abhorred, because the lack of knowledge of self and the lack of will to return to the ways of our forefathers and the names and culture and traditions of our forefathers. Now, on the inverse, the importance of nationality is there, but the importance of the chattel term and the social constructs of Black, these adhering to these, is there as well, because they have laws that govern people who adhere to these terms. You had the Black codes. Anybody who considers themselves Black should go read the Black codes. You might say, well, the Black codes, that was back in the 1700s. Well, all they did was just change the names. If you look at the Black codes, they're the same as the anti-vagrancy laws. They're the same as the anti-drug laws, and they're the same as the anti-gang laws. The ability for you to be able to assemble in numbers is one of the main things. When you look at the anti-gang laws, if you're considered a gang member, then you can't congregate with other people considered gang members. If the anti-drug laws, they all mirror one another. So the technology and the legalese changes, but that status is still there. When you look at why so-called Black people are still the #1 population in the prison industrial complex, this it's not happenstance. There's an orchestrated effort. And because they don't have a nationality, Prophet Noble Jew Ali teaches us those without a nationality are the ones that the abuses by other citizens and big government and other and corrupt politicians, these are the ones, this is the targeted population that abuses are heaped upon, because they don't have the same rights and protections of those people who do have a nationality. Case in point, some people say, well, can you prove that? So-called black people didn't used to have voting rights, even though the Constitution guarantees anyone, well, it doesn't guarantee the voting rights specifically, but it's an unwritten rule that if you're an American and you're a citizen, you have a right to vote. So, but so-called black people were disenfranchised from voting. They were kept away from the polls through violence. They were maneuvered with discriminatory laws to the point where they had to establish what is known as the so-called Voters' Rights Act to protect from discrimination regarding so-called black people. Now, this act was supposed to be enacted for 5 years. It ended up being extended for 25 years. It was signed into law by, I can't remember exactly who it was first. I think it was Nixon. And then when that 25 years expired, do you think so-called black people got permanent protection and voting rights? No, they had to extend the Voters' Rights Act for another 25 years under it was either Reagan or Bush, one of those people. I know in 2006, young Bush, baby Bush, he extended it another 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then I believe it was Obama who extended it finally one more time until 2031. So now this voters' rights extends until 2031. Name any other population of citizens that have to have their voting rights extended every 25 years. No other population, not even if you're a foreigner and you come over here and you claim United States American citizenship and nationality, you can vote until the day you die, and your children can vote until the day they die. So there's different laws. I'll give you another one. Have you ever seen a European that wasn't maybe transgender or some, dealing with some type of gender issue, claim that their civil rights was violated?
No.
What rights do the Europeans stand on? Constitutional rights.
Right.
They say they bring up the Constitution. You'll never see a free so-called white European talking about civil rights. So again, this shows that there's an auxiliary law that so-called black people are under, where those people who are citizens are fully protected by the Constitution and have no need of civil rights. They have no need to have their rights for voting reinforced. They have no need for some auxiliary law known as civil rights to protect them from discrimination and other things. Aside from that, we don't even have to talk about Jim Crow, which is the unwritten law of discrimination against these people under these chattel terms is so-called black people. So it's very important to have a nationality. It's very important to get from up under the social and constructs and chattel terms and to proclaim who you are. And this is something that our people need to really grasp a hold of so that they can have a higher quality of life in this country and abroad.
Nicely explained. Okay. Now we're going into why are we Moorish Americans? Because we are descendants of Moroccans born in America. Now, for those, all right, I'm going to be honest with you. All right, we live in front of everybody. The Moroccan flag, I always had a problem with the Moroccan flag. Because the Moroccan government and the Moroccan people, as it is right now, are completely different from who we are. And so I look at it as like we're claiming someone else's, you know what I mean, flag.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Well, Well, I'll tell you this, it depends on where you go in Morocco, right? Depends on where you go in Morocco. You go to Morocco, you're going to see brothers and sisters look exactly like you. And even me, they're still there. But this is the thing. This is the thing. And this is something that people don't understand. Morocco, they're not the inventors of that flag, nor were they the ones holding that. You have to remember, Morocco, the state of Morocco got its independence in 1956 after the Moroccan Sahara March. Here, Prophet Noble Jew Ali, we had this flag since 1913 AD. And the flag is over 10,000 years old. They didn't make the flag. They merely adopted the flag. In 1915, they adopted the seal of the Moors, which is the 5-pointed star, into the flag, right? Which is still before 1915, but they couldn't fly it on land because they were under a French protectorate. So the Moors on these shores were the first to fly this particular flag prior to the modern Moroccan state. And most people don't know that. So it's not as if we, as Moorish Americans, we already had that flag. Now,
I looked in, pardon me, I don't mean to cut you. I looked into that some years back, and I saw that. My thing is like popular opinion, right? But I think the prophet says something about the generality of men are
generality is no proof of truth, for the generality of men are ignorant.
Right.
Yeah, that's how you get mobs. That's how you get the lynch mobs and lack of law and order and mob rule. So it's just a point of looking into it. And then we can even go even further back than that, because when you look on the Americas, the flag was over here, which is when we talk about how old is our flag, it is over 10,000. Well, first it says, what do the 5 points represent? Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And then it also talks about our flag being over 10,000 years old. That flag is present here and in the Americas prior to that, and it's present in Egypt with the Seba or 7 star. It has 5 points, but it's known as Seba, which is where Sheba and Shabazz come from. It's all related. I would point out also that there is a very slight difference in the Moorish flag and the flag of Morocco.
Okay, there we go.
Yes,
let's do it. Because
yes, so
because I've been hearing this for years, right? So this is what a Moor told me. Shouts out to Daniel Clark Ill, Temple 54. He said that the Moorish flag, the 5-pointed star. Now, Clark Ill, if you ever see this, you said this almost 20 years ago. I don't know if you changed your mind or whatever. the Moorish flag, the 5-pointed star is pointed down on the Moorish flag. The Moroccan flag, the 5-pointed star is pointed up. I don't know.
All right, so that does have something to do with it. But let me deal with this. If you look at the Moorish American flag, you'll see that it's basically just a flat green star. But when you look at the flag of Morocco, you'll see that it's an interlocking star. The stars are different. Oh, it's very slight.
Okay. I want to hear this. Yeah. Got you.
I'm sorry about being out here, but at my house it was raining, pouring, storming. We wasn't going to get no service. So when you look, if you look at the Moroccan flag, you're going to see it's an interlocking star. They fold in on each other. But when you look at the Moorish American flag, it's a flat green star. So even though they adopted it, it's still slightly different. And it's just very subtle. Now, the upside down star relates to flag protocol. And the prophet at one point, when you see him in his office where he was flying the flag according to flag protocol, you'll see that the star is pointing upside down. Now, when a star points upside down on the flag, or any flag points upside down, that represents the flag being in the nation being in distress, and it represents extreme danger. This is basic flag protocol. Anybody can look this up. And at the time when the prophet was flying this flag, he was in extreme danger and in distress. The nation was in extreme danger and distress. And in the Moorish literature, there are a lot of, well, at least four, perhaps more, readings that the prophet enacted to be read in each and every meaning that explain this distress and explain the aid and assistance and help that he needed to bring the nation out of distress. So that's where the upside down comes from.
Mm. Okay, so there's truth to that.
Islam, yes, the prophet did fly the flag with it upside down. I wouldn't say that that's the difference between our flag and the present day flag of Morocco. If you just look at, if you put the two flags side by side, you'll see the difference between the stars. One is an interlocking star, and the other one is a flat star. So there is a difference. It's just a very subtle difference. But the upside down flag being flown is a sign of distress. You can look it up in any basic flag protocol. It means danger. It means distress. And during that time, the prophet and the nation was under distress. And as I said, it's outlined in these readings that the prophet told all the temples to read during every meeting.
All right, all right. That's I like that answer right there. That was a good one right there. All right, so the next one, well, yeah, I wanted to also say this, right? Have you ever had a conversation with a Moroccan and about these things? You know, and yeah, so right now we're online anyways. And you know, I used to work with Egyptians, and one of my clients was it was still is a Moroccan, and you know, when I was online with my fez or the Moroccan flag at sometimes or the Moorish flag, he would never really say much. He would just look at it. You know, he would never really say much of anything. Even when I would make claim of our ancestors, you know, being in Egypt at some point, you know, the Egyptian brothers that I used to work around, they never really said anything. However, like there's a new thing on online where, you know, everyone's trying to, you know, reclaim or hold claim to, you know, their you know, heritage and ancestry. And there's like a fight online, you know, controversy between, you know, if so-called African Americans or black people were ancient Egyptians or not, or things like that. Have you encountered any of these conversations?
Islam, I've encountered both. I've encountered both on both sides. There are many Moroccans that will tell you, yes, you're absolutely right. You are brothers, you know, and then you'll have the other ones that are like, no, this is our nationality. You're black, you know. So the thing is, usually the arguments about black come from people who have accepted, who are Americanized and have accepted the American way of thinking that a
Mhm.
person can be a Negro, black, or color. And they're usually those who are educated in their schools.
Right.
And so they're as indoctrinated as anybody else, you know, especially foreigners coming over here. Remember, they have to take a nationality test. They have to learn the history. And part of that history is that we're slaves, we're black, that's it. And that's what they have to adhere to. And, you know, they put themselves in danger when they start of their citizenship to try to tell you anything else, literally. So most people who are indigenous Moroccans and Moroccans that are there, they will tell you because this history has been orally passed down to many of them, not all of them, and they know that we are what they used to look like. They've been conquered over and over and over again. They still have the bloodline. Many of them are also Arabs who moved there and began to claim Moroccan nationality. Remember, through Jusali, through being born on the land. But the bloodline, the consanguinity, the Jusali, not all Moroccans have that. And so you have to realize the American empire, so to speak, the negative aspect of the American empire that would create chattel brands and brand people other than what they are, has expanded all across the globe. So wherever you go across the globe, you're going to find those who have who worship the beast, who worship the pale European image as God, right? And they are going to be the ones that will try to keep you and keep that caste system intact. And then you're going to have the indigenous people who are usually oppressed, who usually carry the bloodline as well, and are going to be more than welcoming to you and inclusive and understanding, not only because of the bloodline, because of their experience with either slavery, colonialism, or neo-colonialism. So it just depends on who you're dealing with. Factually, these people, they won't be able to hold up against anything, because one thing about so-called black people, and even this is even in the Muslim community, if you talk to a Muslim that's a foreigner that is on point, they'll tell you almost every so-called brother that has become a Muslim in America, if is almost, if not, they're either a scholar or almost a scholar, because most of them are just born into it and they're practicing the culture. Where we actually study it, we actually take this serious. A lot of them are coming over here so they don't have to follow it, but we take it serious. We learn the adab, we learn the rituals, we learn everything. So we take our knowledge of self very seriously. We take our religion seriously. We take everything serious. So if one were to sit down and have an actual factual conversation about things, they would learn something. But most people are just standing on the pyramid, so to speak, of so-called white supremacy, colonialism, and neo-colonialism.
Right.
And they know that because that's their sustenance. And if they leave that alone, then they are betraying that they're biting the hand that feeds them, so to speak.
Damn. Y'all heard that? Yeah, in the chat, man. Y'all gotta say something. Talk to me. Talk to me. So let's go to the next one. Okay. What is the purpose for the Moorish Science Temple? Sorry. For what purpose was the Moorish Science Temple of America founded?
Mhm.
For the uplifting of fallen humanity. So with that question, for the uplifting of fallen humanity. So that means not only our people, that would mean the world, right?
Islam, for that answer, you look right on the front cover, because the Prophet Noble Jew Ali is uplifting, obviously, fallen humanity. They can't stand. She can't stand on her own 2 feet. So it's humanity. Humanity encompasses all, but fallen humanity. Fallen how? Fallen from the right to be included in the constitutional fold. Fallen from the right to be included in the international fold. Fallen from the right to be to sit at the table of nations and to take their place amongst the affairs of men, because they do not qualify. They do not qualify. Islam, peace and love. I said Nicholas Bay. They don't qualify. They don't fit up to the criteria of what humanity is. Humanity has all things, certain things in common. The two main things that they have in common that we lack is a nationality and a divine creed. Right? These are the first things when you want to become a citizen here. When you come, they're going to ask you, what's your nationality? And what's your divine creed? Or what's your religion? What's your way of life? Mm-hmm. Now, when you look at so-called black people in this country, they don't know who they are. Those that don't know who they are. And when you deal with culture, the only culture that they practice in this still is plantation culture. We eating chitlins, we eating hog maws, cornbread, soul food, and criminality, which we had to at some point use to survive. And we're exploited by every other group You can go to China, you'll see Chinatown. You go to Mexico, you see the signs in Spanish. You go to in California, you have a Japanese town, Korea town, Chinatown, Vietnamese town. You don't have to have a Mexican town because it's all Mexican. But you know, when you look in the so-called Black community, you see everybody else and just a little sprinkle of us doing business and a sprinkle of what. So, you know, it's when it comes to culture, we usually have to look someplace else. And this is what the movie what was it? Not The Golden Child, but I know you're gonna know the one with Show Enough in it.
Oh, that's The Last Dragon.
The Last Dragon and Bruce Leroy.
Mm-hmm.
He's a perfect prototype of what happens when you don't have an identity and you learn something from a culture. You begin now that emptiness that's in you becomes filled with that, to the point where now you believe, not only did you learn karate but you begin to believe, you begin to act, you believe to emulate the Chinese or the Japanese that taught you, or the Muslim. You're a Muslim now, you're imitating the Arab that taught you, or you're imitating the Indian that taught you, or you're imitating the Malaysian that taught you. I've seen people walk into the masjid with an Arab head cover, Indian shirt, Malaysian shoes. You know, to us, it's just all Islam. But to them, they look at this nigga with, excuse my language, with Malaysian shoes, an Indian shirt, an Arab hat, Pakistani wallet, and African saddlebag. You know, where everyone else is draped in what? Their culture. But this is the beautiful thing about Moorish American, because when you look back in history, you see them Moors, they got a certain way they dress. Right. They had a certain food they ate. They had a certain culture. They had a certain way they practiced. And when you put on your Moorish garb and you go into the masjid, they recognize that. Oh, he looks like himself. We remember them. We remember those. Wow, this is a blast from the past. This is someone stepping out of the history books. And they want to come over to you and, brother, who are you? Where are you? What are you? How do you know about this? You know? And so it's just something that we have to realize. When you look back in history and you see Moors, there's paintings of Moors. And Moors wore their turban a particular way that nobody else did. You can see how the Turkish wore their turban. You can see how the Arabs wore their turbans and their qual. But when you see the Moor, he looks a particular way. His turban is a particular way. His pants are a particular way. His sash around his waist is a particular way. He might have those 2 earrings in his ear a particular way. We have a culture. We just don't know. A lot of us don't know what it is. But when we begin to practice it, then you see the difference in how the rest of humanity who has not fallen treats you. And you begin to say, hey, you begin to notice that this is real. There's something real to this. If it can get me the type of prestige and the type of respect just by putting it on, now you got to work on your mind. Now you got to not just adopt the way that you look, but adopt the ethics and the ethos of your forefathers and your ancestors, your foremothers, because along with that culture, along with that dress, along with that food, along with that language, there comes an ethos. There comes a particular type of national character that you can recognize in every other nation. And that's what Prophet Noble Ali gave us. He gave it all to us. But he said we wouldn't recognize it because it's ours. And if you look around, mostly all of the movements that our people are following, they're following somebody that don't really look like them. And when somebody who looked like them come to tell them something, it's only natural that they're going to respond in the sense of Willie Lynch. They're going to respond in the sense of how we used to say, oh, nigga, you don't know nothing, or you don't know no more than me, you know, because that's that slave mind. So we have to give those things up and truly begin to investigate ourselves and look a little deeper.
Check. All right. Now we're going into look at this. How did the prophet begin to uplift the Moorish Americans? By teaching them to be themselves. You just mentioned that.
Islam.
Now I want to talk about that, teaching them to be themselves. So what I remember from a lot of pictures from when the prophet was around, a lot of brothers wore suits. Now, is that what you mean, or anything? Are you talking about like in the medieval time?
Islam. I'm talking about in the history books. They have a bunch of French paintings and all these paintings you can see. Matter of fact, the Moorish chief, which is one of the most famous ones,
Oh yeah, yeah.
you can see. Now, yes, some Moors wore suits, but if you look at those convention pictures and you look at the prophet's garbs, these Moors were making these things. There was no place to buy this stuff. You have
Oh
Moors, they
really?
made this. All of this stuff was made. So even though it resembles the Moorish, it's legitimately Moorish American. It's Moorish American based on what our more. We're not trying to be our forefathers of old. We're Moorish American. We have a different flavor, a different twist to us. We honor our bloodline, but we also have ties to the land here in America and traditions that have been developed, cultivated over hundreds of years, sometimes even thousands of years here. And so you'll see that reflected in the garb that was being produced by the sisters and the brothers back then. And you can see a lot of that in convention. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You'll see a lot of that. And these garbs were being made, and many of them are still made, just how the Nation of Islam, they make their garbs for the MGT, the sisters, not so much for the brothers. Well, they do make the suits. They're more of a suit style. But you see the sisters in MGT, they're still wearing more of a garb type of dress. And so the brothers and sisters were doing this back then, and we still do it. I myself have produced fezzes and also garb. You know, I took up sewing. For a year I produced a lot of handcrafted garb for Moors, fezzes, and I think these things will begin to return now that we've are gathering up a good team of good Moors that have a lot of skills. You're going to see a lot more of that coming back.
Mm. Interesting right there. That's all I can say. In fact, where do you find this garb? Because it would be nice to have this.
Well, you can definitely contact Moorish Science Temples and see if they have anybody that is making these garbs. Again, I'm not selling right now. I'm on another mission out here with this land. I haven't sold garbs for a couple of years, but our divine minister, Brother King Ali Bey in California, you can get in touch with him, Moorish Science Temple of America, Oakland Temple, on Facebook and Instagram, and he has beautiful garbs that are being made. Some very affordable, others very elegant and of a higher bracket. Also, you have the Grand Sheik out there, Brother William Osiris Bey, who has garbs and has his brand as well. Some are the thobe type style, some are the modern, like the hoodies and hats and all different types of stuff. So Moorish Science Temple of America, Oakland Temple, MSTA Oakland, I believe it is, online. You contact them, or just hit me on Facebook or any other platforms, or at the Minister of Culture at gmail.com, and I'll pass your information along for them to contact you. And you can buy some things off the rack, or you can have it custom made.
I'm texting you right now.
I know you had asked me about that. I've been meaning to get you that information as well. So all is well.
Yeah, I'm getting garbed up nowadays.
Hey, it's nothing wrong with it, my brother.
Right. Now, what is our religion? Islamism. Now, I was in the temple. I think that was last week, and I think when the brother asked what was our religion, I said Islamism, but the brother said love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice is our religion, and the practice of those 5 principles is Islamism.
All right. So clearly it says, what is our religion? Islamism. Now, Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, probably what he was referring to, is our divine creed, right?
Okay.
That's our
Oh, right.
divine
That's what he said.
creed.
It was divine, right? Yeah, he said
Yes,
divine creed. He said
because a
divine.
creed is like a motto, right?
Okay.
A creed is like a motto. So we practice our Islamism through the divine creed of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Now, we have Islam is our faith, because Islam is not a religion. Islam is a way of life. This is known throughout the Islamic community. The Arabic word for Islam, or what they translate, again, we're back into what they translate into religion is deen. And deen does not mean religion, but because it's translated into the English, they look at deen as a religion. But deen literally means way, like the Tao or the Tao. It's a way. So Islam is a way. It's not a religion.
Man,
Islam is.
that's interesting. Uh-oh.
Yeah. So now
Oh, man.
Islamism is our religion. Now, it is the political, it is the religious, it is the religious practices, but also the political, social, and economic practice of Islam through the political, social, and economic aspect of our lives, through the self-governing aspect of our lives as well. So it's not the way, it is actually the religion. And it's important to have a religion in America or in the United States for one specific reason, right? Number one, because of the free exercise clause in the Constitution of the United States of America. The Constitution doesn't allow you to secure rights through spirituality or through a way. It's through religion, freedom of religion in America. The United States was the so-called founding fathers. All this was predicated on breaking free on the European side from the religious oppression of Great Britain. And so the ability, the inalienable rights in the Constitution, and the ability to practice religion through the freedom of the free exercise clause allows one to be able to practice whatever religion they wish, as opposed to if you're in this country, you have to be a Christian, or if you're here, you have to be Indian or whatever. So everyone has a religion in this country. And Prophet Noble Drew Ali brought us one specifically that no one else can lay claim to. Others can lay claim to Islam as the religion, which is something that does come about later when the Arab missionaries begin coming here. They codified a religion as Islam, but the Islam of the Prophet Muhammad was not a religion; it was a deen. So, but every culture brings codifies their way into a religion here, because there are certain rights and protections in religion in the United States. So say, for example, during COVID time, we talked about this before. Many people were forced to take shots and do a lot of things. However, those who had an exemption from the doctor or those who had a religious exemption were exempt from being able to do that. So I don't say that we're here, right? We're not trying to overthrow anything when we say that we have things that we can do. We're a special class of citizens that others don't, because we have our body politic, we have our government, that when there's a conflict, when it becomes a conflict between our religious principles and what the civil or civic government is doing, we can say, we can claim our exemption and say, hey, no, we don't do that according to our reasons. This is why. Here's our exemption. Boom. Now, there was an issue for those people who were following Islam, because the edict from Saudi Arabia was that you could take the COVID shot. So some people were saying, I'm a Muslim and I can't do that. But they were saying, hey, no, your religious leaders say that you can. But see, with Islamism, that didn't cover Islamism. Each Grand Sheikh is empowered to make law and enforce law. So each Grand Sheikh of each temple had the ability to give a ruling and say that this is, some temples said, hey, go ahead and do it. Other temples said, no, we don't do that. And for these reasons. So it's very important to have a religion. Religion is not just about religiosity, dumb worship, or dogma. It's also a very powerful political, social, and economic tool to protect you.
On that note, before we cut out, Nicholas Bay, thank you for the $10. I really appreciate you. Every dollar is going right back into the platform. Before we cut out, I would like to thank Brother Grand Sheik Cosmo L for his demonstration today, and thank you to everyone who's been on the platform watching and supporting the podcast. I really appreciate you. Before we cut out, we got to play this commercial, and we're out of here.
Peace.
Peace, family. Welcome to NYP Talk Show. This is more than a podcast. It's a conscious platform rooted in truth and culture. From the 5% Nation, Nation of Islam, Moorish movement, and Masonry. Our mission is to reclaim our narrative and uplift the African diaspora with real stories and real conversations. Support us through super chats during live shows, donations on Cash App, GoFundMe, Patreon, or Buzzsprout, and by repping our official merch, available on our website and right here on YouTube's merch shelf. Every dollar, every super chat, every hoodie builds the movement. This is NYP Talk Show.